Hi, welcome to another episode of Dinner at Your House. I'm Sunana,
I'm Jeff.
and today we're here with Bill and Maxine Bushnell in beautiful Cardiff by the Sea. Maxine is an actor, comedian, Pilates instructor, drummer. Is there anything you don't do?
Not really.
And Bill is a automotive sales specialist here in San Diego, and he's a mover and shaker in the car selling business.
And a motorcycle enthusiast.
That's right, a motorcycle enthusiast as well.
And this is Sydney.
And this is Sydney.
What are we going to do today, Sunana?
Today we're going to be having a feast with some fresh grouper and some green beans and risotto and wine. It's going to be lovely.
Sounds great.
I bought this grouper down the street at the Seaside Market in Cardiff by the Sea. It's one of my favorite fish because it has a really mild flavor. It cooks up flaky and moist with a really tender flesh, yet it's very firm. It holds up to all kinds of preparations. You can marinate it or coat it like we're going to, grill it, broil it. It's not going to break up and crumble.
Sunana, what are you making tonight? Everything looks
Maxine,
delicious.
we're going to have such a beautiful meal. I had some salmon recently that had a pecan crust on it. So I thought, what a great combination. But instead of salmon, we're going to be making a beautiful grouper, which is a really light, flaky white fish. We're going to do a pecan and panko crust with a bit of a mustard marinade on it. On the side, on top of the fish, we're going to do a really crunchy salsa with some fresh daikon, some Asian pear, cilantro, and mango with a lime dressing on it. And then as a side dish, we're going to do some crispy green beans with some orange zest and toasted almonds. And then our starch is going to be a really creamy, velvety, sweet pea and goat cheese risotto in a white wine reduction.
Sounds great. And what's in there?
These are cumin seeds.
Okay.
Cumin seeds are going to add a really nutty flavor to the beans. We're not going to overcook the beans. They're going to be nice and crispy, but it's going to be a cumin seed and orange zest dressing on it.
Another question. What is this?
This is daikon, and it's something that we use a lot in Indian cooking. It's in the radish family, but it's not as pungent as radishes. It's kind of very mild, but crunchy, sort of like jicama, but it's not starchy. It's more of a radish.
I like
and
jicama.
it's got a beautiful flavor in the salsa that we're going to make, which will top the fish.
Sounds great.
We're going to start our sweet pea and goat cheese risotto right now. The stock takes a little while to cook, so we're going to get that cooking before we start on the fish. We're starting out with some wonderful European butter, and we're going to saute some shallots and garlic that I've grinded up here to give it a really nice base of flavor. We're also going to be adding some white wine once it's cooked down, and some heavy cream, just a tad bit of heavy cream to make it velvety, and some sweet peas. We're using arborio rice here, which is kind of a shorter Italian rice, and we're also going to top it off with some Italian seasonings. So our shallots and our garlic are nicely browned now. This is going to give the risotto a really beautiful, nutty flavor. We're going to keep them from cooking any further by adding our wine and adding our peas. We want our peas to cook a little while so that the sweetness comes out. We're using about a cup of peas, and as soon as this comes to a boil, we're going to add in our risotto and our salt and pepper and finish this dish off, cooking it on a really slow heat. We're going to marinate the grouper in a little bit of mustard and salt and pepper. That's going to give, some richness of flavor and just kind of get into the fish before we coat it with the pecans and panko. So I've got this really nice burgundy mustard that I'm going to coat with the rest of it, and we're going to add some salt and pepper to it after that.
So you don't use dry mustard at all?
No, I'm going to use the dry mustard in the coating. So to kind of reinforce the mustard flavor, but we don't want to overwhelm the fish because the fish is really a beautiful velvety fish. And I just want a little bit of flavor that's going to help the ingredients, the panko and the pecans, stick to it when we coat it. So it's really important to season things properly. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a restaurant where, the coating, the outside, the crust of something tastes great, but if you just eat the fish, they haven't seasoned it at all. And I just find that to be unacceptable.
So how long do you marinate this for?
We're just going to marinate it for about a half hour or so. I want to get the mustard
You
nice.
need a little
and
more mustard?
I do. Well, I don't need more mustard. I just need to kind of distribute it more evenly because we don't want to overwhelm the fish with the mustard. So I'm just going to try to take as much as I have and make sure it gets coated all over. And then we're going to do salt and pepper on it.
And then you leave this in the refrigerator?
Yeah, we're going to just kind of put it to the side and for about 20 minutes while we grind up our pecans and add some spices and our panko. And then we're going to use that to crust the grouper and fry it in a little bit of peanut oil. Now, if you wouldn't mind, can you take this salt and kind of salt me here? And I'll just tell you when to stop. You could keep going. I'm going to make sure that it gets nicely, evenly distributed. There we go. That's great. Thank you. Let's do these two pieces on the bottom too.
Okay. Here, I'm helpful.
I like sea salt,
I like sea salt,
I like the grinder because you can kind of control it more.
So it's not real.
Then, you're putting a big giant chunk of it somewhere. And then let's do a little bit of this fresh ground pepper as well. And you can do it, and I'll just move the fish around. Okay. Again, I like to grind my pepper fresh. It just kind of gives it a really, and it looks prettier, I think, too.
I think so, too.
It's, it's not so evenly ground as, the consistency, the kind you find in a diner. That's perfect.
Okay.
So we're going to leave this marinade for about 15 to 20 minutes until our risotto's done and our, start our beans. The fish is going to cook in 10 minutes, so we don't want to leave it sitting along too long.
So far, so good.
Thank you.
Can't wait to taste it.
We're going to top the fish with a really light, fresh, crunchy salsa. And it's going to consist of a little bit of daikon, which I told you is like a mild radish.
I'm looking forward to seeing how that works.
This is a great peeler.
Thank you.
And a little bit of tomato, mango, and this weird, it's not Asian pear, but it's not a pear. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I really like these because they're crunchy and not too sweet. Because I don't like my salsa on my fish to be too sweet. So it's just got a really nice sort of texture and consistency. And it's some kind of pear. Yeah, a little crunch
to it. Yeah.
And some cilantro, of course.
And it's mango.
Yeah.
Which I love.
So I know. And mango and fish just go together hand in hand like peanut butter and jelly. So we're gonna chop up all of these ingredients and just kind of, mix them up and squeeze some some lime and put some salt and pepper on it. And it's just going to sit and their own juices are going to ooze and it's going to be so delicious on top of the fish. So here we have our daikon. We're just going to throw that in there. And then our Asian pear.
So do you put all of this in or just
I just put it all. I try to use everything because if you don't finish it, with this meal, it's going to sit in the fridge and you're going to want to eat it tomorrow on tacos or something like that.
So
because it's just so fresh.
If you have leftover lime, do you use this for tequila or something?
Sometimes I do. Tequila or, guacamole.
I go with maybe we should do the guacamole and tequila.
I also use a gin and tonic.
Yeah, there you go.
Lime is really good in a gin and tonic as well.
That.
So I don't really let a lot of lime go to waste. That's for sure.
Yeah. Nice mango too.
Yeah, it's a nice mango. And I try to get it so it's a little bit raw.
I was just going to ask, how do you know the right consistency
it
for mango?
depends on what I'm cooking. Like if I want something like for fish, I don't want it to be too sweet. So that's why I get a mango that's a little bit raw, that's not fully ripe because it's going to add the consistency that I want, the flavor, instead of too sweet. And here we have some fresh cilantro. Just going to chop that up rough. And I don't really like to chop this in the
Too
food
much.
press. Yeah, because I like it to be bite-sized pieces instead of
a
really,
rough
really
chop.
pureed, right?
Yeah.
And this is going to be so nice on the fish.
I guess this is the last thing you put on, and it's cold. So
It's cold,
with
and the
fish
reason
hot,
we're
it
doing
will be
the
like-
reason we're doing this now is because it really kind of needs to sit and stew in its own juices for all the flavor to come out for a little while. Let me just take this lime, and the lime is really kind of what makes everything, all the good flavors come out, and the salt, of course.
So why lime is always better than lemon, isn't it? For
Not
a
always.
dish like
I mean,
this?
really depends. I prefer lime in salsa over
Yeah.
lemon. I just think that lime with fish is really nice. So we're going to add a little salt to it as well. But we're just going to let that sit. And then it'll be perfect by the time we're ready to serve the fish.
That looks delicious too. Every step gets closer to the meal.
Exactly.
Well, now that the girls are getting busy in the kitchen whipping up a feast, you can show us some of these cool motorcycles you have, Bill. When did you get into biking?
I got into biking. I was diagnosed at age 50 with melanoma cancer, and I've been fighting. I was fighting it back and forth, and then it progressed to a stage 4 melanoma in the lung, which is kind of a death sentence, And went through. They said, "Hey, you got 8 or 9 months to live," and all that stuff, and a lot of things change when that kind of happens. And
It turns your perspective upside down, I guess.
turns your perspective around. And I got involved in a study in UCLA Medical Center, and Reader's Digest version, several vaccines, a completely different approach to any other cancer treatment, and the CTLA-4, they used Pfizer as a company that designed the drug, and along with making the vaccine and the CTLA-4 eradicated the cancer. So I went from planning funerals to really, getting on with life.
Living again.
And I was very involved in motorcycles when I was younger. Really wanted to get back into motorcycling, but with all the safety things and the this and the that. And then I reflected just a very short time after they said I was cured. And I just said, well, I walked into a Harley franchise, and I said I wanted that one, and bought my first Harley Davidson. I've never had a Harley Davidson, but I bought my first one then.
Which one was that?
That was was called a Deluxe, and it was a great bike. I had it for a little bit of time. And then I wanted to go to my next step, which was a Harley Street Glide, a bagger, so to speak, much more comfortable. I could ride longer distances. And, since then, I've just kind of acquired several bikes because there's different, like golf, there's different clubs for different things you want to do. And with bikes, there are different bikes for the different things you want to do. This one that we're looking at right now is a Harley V-Rod Muscle. It's about 125 horsepower. It's a little unique in respects that it's the first water-cooled version motorcycle that Harley made. And this model was made back in 2000. It's not a very popular model with Honda or with Harley. Some of the traditionalists look kind of down on it, but it's really a fantastic machine, and it's a lot of fun. It's a combination sport bike, touring bike, all into one type of thing, and it's a lot of fun.
This one was a real departure from what Harley has traditionally made, yes?
Way, way, way. And again, the Porsche actually designed the motor for this machine, and that's way, way out there from Harley. But they came together with Porsche, and through a group effort, they came up with a design. And Harley wanted to get into a sport bike type of situation, and in the future, possibly with emission controls, get into water cooling the motors. It's not been very well accepted with the Harley traditionalists, and I can understand
tough
that.
Crowd.
Yeah, and it's a really tough crowd. They just don't. They like their. They like their machines. They like their air-cooled machines, and
they like their traditions.
They like their traditions, and I don't see anything wrong with that. It's great. It's all part of motorcycling. What makes it great, different,
the whole culture.
And it is. There is a certain culture, and this bike certainly moves away from that Harley culture. So.
It's a great looking bike for sure. What do you like best about this particular bike?
I like this best. It's very comfortable in touring, and it gives you that sport bike appeal. There's a lot of the sport bike craze. This gives you a little bit of both. It gives you some touring, and it's a sport. It's kind of a sports bike.
Looks pretty sporty to me. Looks fast.
Yeah, for a 50-year-old guy, for a 58-year-old guy like me, this is kind of perfect. It still wants some power and handling, and still some comfort.
What's the fastest you ever been on this bike?
On this bike, 140.
That's pretty fast.
Yeah, it is pretty fast.
What's your favorite place to ride?
My favorite place to ride, I love going through Julian and then back down into the desert. It's Borrego Springs. And I ride usually to Laughlin about once a month during this time of year. So it's kind of fun. Route 66.
A little bit cooler up there.
And it's cooler, and it's a wonderful time to ride right now.
Yeah.
It really is.
Have you ever been up to Sturgis?
I have not been to Sturgis, although many of my friends have, and they're goading me to go to Sturgis. I have not been there, although I've been to all through Colorado. And
that's a great place to ride.
And it's a wonderful place to ride. Oregon, and of course the best riding places here in Southern California.
Hard to go wrong with that.
Yeah.
Does Maxine like to get on back?
Maxine will occasionally ride a mile and a half down to our local breakfast area. But other than that, she gets on the gear and everything else. And,
it's on the leather.
She gets her designer bag and pulls it out of the bag in my Street Glide. So it's kind of a sight, really. So no, she's not really into it. It's really my kind of escape, and she respects that. And it's really great.
You have some buddies you go riding with?
Yeah, I have several people that I ride with. I'm kind of a loner in respects that I really don't care for parades much. Some of those guys that are out there and they've got 100 bikes and they're going through different places. I really like one or two people are very comfortable for me.
What do you like best about motorcycling in general?
That with all my work that I do, it is one place that you have tremendous focus. Stay alive today. You got to have tremendous focus, and everything goes away. And that's what I like best about motorcycling. It's just that all the things, your day-to-day things that we do, all goes away, and you are just one with this machine, and you're headed out to anywhere you really like to go. And sometimes we end up in places that we weren't planning on, and it's really great. So I really enjoy it.
What's one of your fondest memories of riding your bike?
Well, the fondest memories of riding my bike was going to Scotty's Castle, and that's
Death Valley.
Death Valley. Death Valley is a really interesting place.
It's amazing.
Went through all the parks there. Went through Stovepipe Wells. Just really took our time and really enjoyed the desert. You lose yourself in there. That's my best time.
I've had some pretty amazing experiences in Death Valley, and I wasn't even on a bike. I was in a minivan.
Yeah.
But I remember it fondly.
Well, the bike, something about a bike, you get, you really can lose yourself in that desert. It's really, really wonderful to see the different colors that they have. And
You get a lot more connected with the environment than you do when you're locked inside a minivan.
you really do. It's really, it's a fun gig.
Yeah, it's a great bike.
Yeah.
So, what's our next step?
We're going to make the crust mixture for our beautiful grouper.
Okay, good.
And we're going to use some pecans. We're going to grind them up.
And how much do you use about? Do you think?
I'm using about a cup. I mean, if I have a little bit left over, I just save it for the next thing I want to bread. I'm using about 3/4 of a cup of panko crumbs. And the panko crumbs have an Italian seasoning in them, so that adds a little. But I am going to add a little bit of heat with some tandoori masala. Not too much.
I've never heard of that.
It's an Indian masala. It's got some, it's ground up peppers and just some coriander and some Indian spices. Nothing too hot. No green peppers or yellow peppers or red peppers. I know that those are forbidden. But
My husband hates peppers.
I know that. But this is the kind of pepper, this is like the heat pepper that he'll enjoy a little bit of bite for. A little bit of coriander. This is ground up coriander seed. And we're going to add some salt. Of course, you must have salt and everything. So I'm going to generously salt this since it's a large amount.
So that looks great.
And now we're going to grind
Now
this
we're
up. And this
getting
is what we're going to
Hungrier every
I
second,
know.
so it makes it harder. I'm drinking wine. I'm going to be drunk before the meal happens. But
Well, that's the fun
I'm
of
gonna
cooking
try to
risotto
space
and white wine. You
myself.
can drink
Yes.
some of it.
trying to space myself.
So now we're gonna grind this up and put it aside so that when we're ready to cook our fish, we're just gonna quickly
So
batter
that's the
the
last thing you do.
exactly because
Okay.
the fish is the crown jewel of the meal. So we want to make sure that our sides are ready to go and we're pulling our fish out of the pan and putting it on the plate and we're eating.
So that goes on both sides.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Sounds great. Okay, what's next?
The
Can't
final
wait to hear.
the final part of our meal,
Okay.
of course, is our vegetable.
Which I love.
And I do too. I'm just, if I could put vegetables, stuff them into everything,
I
I
love
would
them
be
too.
happy. I love vegetables.
And I'm never sure how to make green beans.
These green beans are going to be cooked really quickly. I don't like my green beans mushy. I
I
like
don't
them to
either.
be a beautiful, vibrant green and still a little bit crunchy.
Me too.
But what's going to make these even crunchier is that we're going to toast these almond slivers and we're going to roast a little bit of cumin and then we're going to make it put a little bit of orange zest in them for a little sweet and sour flavor to them.
So do you roast these together or
No, you don't
Okay.
because that's
Don't want to mess that up.
that's the whole art of it is that the almond slivers cook very quickly. So we're going to roast our cumin first, put our
Okay.
almond slivers in just for about 2 minutes, and then immediately add our beans and our orange so that the almond slivers don't get too cooked.
Sounds great. I hate that green bean casserole. for
Oh,
Thanksgiving.
yeah. No green bean
Nothing worse
casserole
than
in
that.
this house.
Okay, that sounds great.
Our risotto's coming along nicely. It's almost reduced. It's going to be at the point where I add the goat cheese pretty soon, but look at the beautiful color that it's come to cooking slowly. We're going to add our cumin seeds. So see how our cumin seeds are going to roast up real nice right away? We have to kind of keep moving them around so they don't overcook. And as soon as those are browned, we're going to add our almond slivers to it so that they toast up real nice. There we go. They look like they're browned. And now we're adding our almond slivers. The best thing about almond slivers is that they're really, really crunchy once they get toasted. And the way to stop them cooking is that we're going to add our beans. The cold beans are going to stop the almond slivers from cooking. we're going to add some salt and pepper. And what's going to make a little bit of sweet and sour is the orange zest that we add to this. Along with some orange juice. That's going to keep the almonds and the cumin from overcooking. And we're going to add salt and pepper, of course. This just adds a really nice acid. A little bit of salt. And a little bit of pepper. Once again, we're not going to overcook these. We're just going to kind of saute them and cover them, cook them for about 6 minutes, and then we're done. I don't like my beans overcooked. Look at that, beautiful. Our beans have been cooking for about 6 minutes now. And they're perfectly cooked. Look what a beautiful color. Look how nicely toasted our almonds are. And you see the flecks of cumin, our roasted cumin all throughout it. This is going to be great.
Here's another great bike, Bill. The BMW's quite a bit different from the Harley. When would you choose to ride this as opposed to the Harley?
I would choose to ride this if I was going around the world. If I was going to Alaska.
In 80 days?
Yeah. In fact, I bought this bike specifically it's on my bucket list to go to Alaska. So, and it's a really great bike. It's a 1200 GS.
You could ride this bike all the way up the Pipeline Road to Barrow.
Yeah.
Be a great choice for that.
It's a great choice. It's called, many motorcycle magazines have done a lot of articles on this bike, and they call it the Swiss Army of motorcycles. Swiss Army knife of motorcycles.
It does just about anything, huh?
It really does just about anything you need to do, and it's kind of like a pack mule. You can kind of load it up. There's all sorts of luggage that can go on here. You've got your navigation, and then you have a place for your radar detector.
That's important.
That's very important.
When you're doing 140.
Well, you want to try to keep it, calm. But this bike is also very performance driven. I mean, it has unlike the Harley, it has a drivetrain that has a drive shaft.
Right.
So in
Not
lieu of
the
a
belt.
chain or anything like that, or in the belts. So that's different. And the overall suspension is different. It's a monoshock type of design. Very smooth. So touring on this bike is excellent.
It's a comfortable ride.
It's very comfortable. I've done 1,000 miles on this bike in one day.
One day?
In one day.
Wow.
In one day.
That's a long ride.
That's a long haul.
You weren't even saddle sore?
No, I've got a nice specially designed seat that was custom made, and I do quite well with that. That's good for, a typical day will be 400 or 500 miles, and it holds up quite nicely. I'm pretty comfy.
What's the farthest away that you've been on a trip on your bike?
Well, probably about 2,000 miles away.
Where was that?
And that was the upper part of Oregon, and kind of cruising around all through, and then coming back down. And then Colorado was probably all of 4,000 miles round trip by the time we got through touring and everything. So that was a nice ride.
Have you ridden in any other countries?
No, but it is on my list of things to do.
Where would you most like to go?
I would like to go to Australia and New Zealand. New Zealand is one of the best riding areas in the world.
Why is that?
Because of the scenery. the
Sure.
roads. Uh, it's uh, it's and the people, I think, are very very accommodating to motorcyclists. So so I've heard. I haven't experienced it, but I certainly plan to.
That sounds great. Those are all places I'd love to go
Yeah.
to. Well, let's head on back into the kitchen and see what Sunana's up to over there.
Yeah, I'm getting a little hungry.
I'm starting to too. It smells good.
I know it.
Now that our green beans and our risotto is done, we're going to finish off our meal with our crispy crusted grouper. We're taking our marinated grouper that we've had sitting for almost an hour now, and we're going to bread it in this beautiful pecan and panko mixture with some salt and pepper. And we're going to be cooking it for about 4.5 minutes on each side, depending on how thick it is. Grouper cooks pretty quickly, but if you have a thick piece, you need to cook it for a little bit longer so that it's not underdone. I like to make sure it's got lots of breading on it so it's good and crispy when it comes out. That's why we're going to be real generous. Make sure we have lots of coating on it. So there's our first piece. So we're going to be, we've got 4 large pieces. They're not all the same thickness. If you have a piece that's pretty thick, it's best to put that towards the middle of the pan, since the middle of the pan is the hottest of all. So this one is a little bit thicker in the middle, so we're going to place this right in the middle of the pan. Now we may have to cook the other 2 pieces separate because you want them not to be crowded. So in order to make it nice and crispy, we'll cook 2 and then we'll cook the other 2. We could tell from the residue of our coating, it's dark enough that we're getting ready to flip. Wow, what a beautiful color on that. We're looking for a really nice brown color on the toast, but really grouper should cook about 4 minutes on each side to be cooked all the way through, but not overdone.
Well, Maxine, I love the drums. I'm a musician
you.
myself. I'm a bass player. I should have brought one along. We could jam
We
out.
should have.
When did you get into drumming?
Well, originally, my ex-husband was in a band,
Yeah.
and kind of, I guess, near we were breaking up, I kind of said, "Can you show me a beat?" And he showed me this beat, and I think I spent 8 hours trying to get it because I was going to get it no matter what. And then once that took off, I started playing the drums, and then I stopped for a long period of time when my daughter was born, and then Bill had gone through cancer. And I think in the middle of that, I decided I need to buy drums again. And I just went in the store and told Bill I bought drums, and that was it. I've been playing ever since. It's about 3-4 years, and it really helps with stress, and I love it. I like the beat.
Yeah, pounding on things is great
Mhm.
for stress.
What I do is I put on my iPod, and I just pretty much play with any bands.
Play along.
So, I play Beatles, Rolling Stones, Doobie Brothers,
Sure.
any current people. I just kind of play with anything
Rock
that I
and
have
roll.
on. Yeah. Jazz is not my forte. I love it, but that's a little harder to play.
A lot different than
Mhm.
rock.
It is, yeah.
So you're a rock and roller at heart.
Yeah, and I've sat in with different bands. I think the closest one here is the Kraken, or a bar that's local on 101, and we were in Park City. I played there. I've played with people in Philadelphia. I've played in Hawaii.
Wow.
And we're on a trip in
You've
Beverly
been on
Hills.
tour.
I just sit in because I don't really look like a drummer. When people see me, they're not, "Oh, wow, she's a drummer." So if I don't mind the drum set. I'll just sit in anywhere. I just like it, and it's fun. It's fun to me.
But you got this great musical tattoo on your arm. That doesn't give you
Yeah.
away?
I got the tattoo about a year ago because music has always calmed me down in my life. And I put this here so that basically I can see it. It's not for the whole world to see.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now they might say. But it's for me. And I look at it and it just makes me feel calm. So I have 2 daughters who I actually went with when I got my tattoo. And they looked at my daughter and said, "Okay, what do you want?" She's like, "It's for my mom." So I'm the only one in my family that's got a tattoo. Usually the first for everything.
Well, it gives you more credibility as a rock and roller if you
Yeah,
have a
I hope
tattoo,
so,
I
yeah.
suppose.
Yeah, adding good arm muscles.
Yeah,
Yeah, that always works.
good.
So,
So you gonna play something for us now? Give us
I'll
a
just
little,
play, yeah, like
give us a
just
little
a
bit
little
of-
beat.
In addition to drumming and teaching Pilates, Maxine has been taking acting classes and recently landed a small walk-on part on Showtime's Dexter. Here you'll see her walk by in red with her daughter Rachel.
Well, our meal is ready, and I really just wanted to thank Maxine and Bill for hosting us. I've had such a great time in your house.
We had a great time.
We've had a wonderful time.
I am so excited for you to try everything that we've made, and I just wanted to propose a toast. Hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Yes.
I hope you enjoy everything we made.
I think we're available next week.
Mm,
Delicious.
I love the risotto.
The risotto's insane.
I'm glad.
Mm.
Grouper is just a really unusual fish.
It's a great
Yeah,
fish.
I've never tasted anything like it.
It's very meaty, like chicken.
Mm-hmm.
No fishy flavor.
No,
It doesn't taste like tilapia or like, you can't tell it's fish.
it has a different texture than
Mhm.
most fish.
No,
Yeah.
the salsa is great.
It's
I love it.
very, very good.